I know I haven't exactly been the most consistent with this channel, but it still surprises me that in these almost 9 years I've been here, I've not once in all that time ever talked in great length about my favorite jolly green joke, Shrek. Yes, I've used a few clips here and there, but the truth of the matter is, Shrek has always been an ogre-sized part of my life, and it's honestly odd to me that he hasn't featured on the channel until now. Friends will tell of how much I like to play up my love for the ogre in my everyday life. I make a point to insert Shrek jokes into conversations wherever possible, and frequently remark that Shrek is one of the greatest modern creations of all time whenever the opportunity presents itself. While I may not actually believe that, I do wholeheartedly believe that the Shrek series is far better than it has any right to be. Hell, in college I wrote 2 very well received essays on the subversive nature of the first movie. Now, common opinion will tell you that only the first 2 and the Puss in Boots movies are good, but I truly believe every film in the franchise is good in its own way, even if a few of them don't quite meet the heights of the first 2. But that's a whole other can of worms that hopefully I'll get the chance to dive into someday. All of this to say, I think Shrek is fantastic, and I've loved the green guy for as long as I can remember. Hell, I watched my disc copy of the first film so much as a kid that the disc is virtually unplayable now. So how didn't I ever notice this?
Then I saw her face.
Yeah, not sure how I didn't notice it, but I'm honestly glad I didn't, because Easter eggs like these scared the shit out of me as a child. And as childish as it sounds, they still kinda do. I think it's because my brain kinda throws out any logical reasoning for it to be there, and forces me to look at it from the perspective of a character in the world of Shrek. Who is this lady? Why does she look so lifelike in a world where everyone else looks like Sergeant Pompous in the Fancy Pants Club band? Why is she staring so blankly yet unapprovingly as the poor Duloc mascot knocks himself out? Why isn't she moving? This whole thing isn't helped by the pure liminal nature of Duloc as a whole. You ever notice that? Aside from this poor soul, and I guess our new lady friend, not a single other person is seen roaming the streets of this seemingly huge city. I've seen some people argue that all Duloc citizens were ordered to attend the night tournament to see who'd win the honor, no, the privilege, of rescuing Princess Fiona. And while this fits in greatly with Farquaad's narcissistic personality, it's never stated in the film, so this is nothing more than fan theory. By the time the city next appears in Scared Shrekless, it's seemingly been completely abandoned, so you can't tell me many people lived there in the first place. If that all wasn't bad enough, let's take a second to appreciate how long it took for anyone to notice this. Shrek was released theatrically on May 18th, 2001, and the first mention of this lady on the internet was on Reddit in 2018. That's about 16 years, and nobody really seemed to care until Shy Valley made their video on it last November. Somehow, many more people seem to have noticed the Easter egg of Z from Ants in the Other Window, who, in my opinion, is much harder to spot than the mystery lady. But I guess you wouldn't exactly be looking for a lady in a random Shrek window, would you? This little mystery has been at the center of my brain since the algorithm blessed me with the video shortly after its release. In my Tin Soldier video, I made it seem that the magic of Christmas pulled me back to the mantle of obscurity. Frankly, that was bullshit. The moment I saw Shy Valley's video, I knew I had to come back and talk about it. So, if you're a fan of my videos, you have Shy Valley to thank for my return. Why not go leave him a comment of appreciation? I'm sure that'll confuse the hell out of him. So who is this lady? Why is she here? What is she doing in our proverbial swamp? I've spent the last few months going over the details, spent countless hours studying the scene and the little crumbs from around the internet, and I've come to one conclusion. I don't know. These sorts of questions have plagued our species since its very inception. Who created us? Why are we here?
Just to suffer.
Who is this mysterious woman in Shrek? And just like every other existential question, I fear we may never know the answer for sure. The first name everyone jumped to was none other than the voice of Princess Fiona herself, Cameron Diaz. I admit, this is a promising theory. If an animator was fooling around and sneaking pictures into frames, it is pretty likely that they'd haul up an image of someone from the project. Someone who they'd likely be thinking of a lot as they worked on the film. Personally, I didn't quite see the resemblance, until I happened upon this comment from YouTube user Possum Checkers under Shy Valley's video. In it, Possum Checker states that Diaz's appearance in the 1996 film She's the One matches up almost completely with the appearance of the Duloc mystery lady. After a quick Google search, yeah, it matches up pretty well. In the film, Diaz can be seen sporting a pair of silver earrings, a white collared shirt, and a pair of sunglasses lying atop her head. So naturally, I next did what any sane man would do. I purchased the movie and watched it. And it was alright, I guess. Not really my kind of movie. Memes aside, the scene in question occurs about 24 minutes in, when Cameron Diaz's character gets into the cab of our main character Mickey Fitzpatrick. And yes, Diaz's appearance here matches up almost perfectly with the Duloc lady, with some unfortunate caveats. For one, try as I might, I could not for the life of me match a frame from the scene where Diaz's expression fits that of the expression on the mystery lady. I'm not quite insane enough yet to go literally frame by frame on it, but I would think that even if you spent a day on it, you wouldn't find anything particularly damning. Aside from the expression not lining up, Diaz's white collar on this scene doesn't exactly match either. To me, the mystery woman appears to be wearing a turtleneck sweater, while Diaz is simply wearing a white collared shirt. The only way she'd be able to somewhat match the lady in the photo would be if she'd awkwardly turned completely to her left or right, and even then it still probably wouldn't match the look of the lady's sweater. Another thing that kinda bothers me is that her sunglasses don't quite match up. Now, this isn't the smoking gun her expression and collar are. After all, God only knows what kind of compression the original photo underwent to have effectively been hidden from the audience for all these years. But still, they don't quite look the same to me. While Diaz does sport a similar look throughout the rest of the film, she never ever sports a pair of sunglasses again. So, unless I missed some sort of wardrobe goof, it looks like She's the One doesn't feature our culprit after all. Now, again, if you have the time and energy to go through every single frame with Cameron Diaz in this movie to find a match, be my guest. But I highly doubt you'll find anything useful to our search. Aside from disappointment, of course. In my eyes, the only way this photo is of Cameron Diaz and from She's the One is if it came from some sort of behind-the-scenes photography that Diaz may have provided to the company as part of her acting reel, or something along those lines. But that is a hunch. And my friends, the internet does not simply do hunches. So let's take a look at some other leads. A much less discussed second theory I've seen floating around is that the Duloc lady is a cast member from Ants, specifically that of either Sharon Stone or Jane Curtin. I'm assuming this stems from the Z Easter egg in the other window, but other than that, this theory holds very little water for me. For one, I couldn't find any images of either actor that looked even remotely close to the Duloc lady, and for two, it just makes a whole lot less sense to me that an animator would be sticking a random image of a lady from a completely different movie into this film. The closest thing I could find was this image of Jane Curtin from the 90s making a vaguely similar expression to that seen on our Duloc lady. Of course, this is no smoking gun, but the argument could be made here that Curtin's expression looks vaguely similar to the mysterious lady's. If you ask me though, her face shape is completely wrong, and again, I'm just not buying that a completely random animator would stick an equally random Ants cast member into this window. What makes much more sense, and is probably the most popular theory by far, is that this lady is either the friend or family member of someone on the animation team. As some of you may know, I'm a film graduate, and while I'm not about to start waving around my diploma and groaning about the color grading of modern cinema on Twitter, I will say that I have a little bit of insight on how things like this happen. The most likely scenario here is the one that has been discussed since the image first appeared on the internet. In all likelihood, the Duloc lady is probably just some bored animator's girlfriend that he cheekily snuck into the film. Trust me, as an editor on some much smaller film projects, this is something I'm guilty of as well. It's one of those things that you sneak into the film and then elbow your friend later asking if they noticed anything. Sure, it's not as glamorous as a secret Cameron Diaz cameo, but in reality it's just as likely, if not far more so. Now, don't get me wrong, because of how similar Diaz's wardrobe is to that of the Duloc girls, I do believe that our mystery lady could be Diaz in an unreleased behind-the-scenes photo from She's the One, but in reality we will probably never know. Unless we want to start harassing all the animators who worked on Shrek, which I can't believe I have to say, but do not do that. Harassment is not so good. The only way we're ever going to find out for sure who this girl is if that one random animator behind the photo
sees those videos that you put on the damn internet
and decides to share the story behind it with the rest of the class. In all likelihood, they've probably forgotten all about it by now. But if one of these videos happens to hit the mainstream, maybe they'll come forward with the information we all so desperately crave. The whole situation really makes you think though. How many other potentially creepy Easter eggs have gone unseen in our favorite movies for all these years? For example, a downright creepy Easter egg from Lilo and Stitch has been on my mind lately. Early on in the film, Lilo introduces her homemade doll Scrump to a group of girls from her school. When the girls show no interest in playing with Lilo or Scrump, Lilo throws the doll to the ground in anger and begins to walk away. However, she changes her mind, runs back, picks up the doll, and hugs it. As she turns and walks away, the doll can be seen smiling and looking directly at the camera. This isn't something I would have ever discovered on my own. I believe it was pointed out on the director's commentary from the DVD. But nonetheless, this was something that really freaked me out as a child, and it still kinda does. This may seem like a cute Easter egg at first, but a little later into the film, we can see Lilo seemingly following a voodoo ritual from a book to punish her friends. Could Scrump be a result of Lilo practicing voodoo magic? It sounds crazy when you say it out loud, but the context clues are there. And even if I am misremembering its inclusion on the DVD commentary, the director and voice of Stitch himself, Chris Sanders, confirmed the Easter egg a few years back on his TikTok. I live for obscure details like these. Details that are simultaneously creepy and incredibly interesting. Sound off in the comments and let me know of your favorite creepy classic Easter eggs from movies. I'd love to hear them. And of course, the more obscure the better. As I mentioned earlier, Shrek has had a massive impact on me, and I can't wait to see what the future holds for the series when Shrek 5 releases next year. In the meantime though, I've actually got a couple of Shrek videos planned over the course of the next year or so, with one actually having been in development off and on for a few years now. I also have a frankly crazy idea for a project related to Shrek that I don't want to bring up yet, mostly because I'm not sure I want to commit to it for my own mental well-being. If I do though, I can promise it'll probably be the most insane thing I've ever done, so please stay tuned for news on that. While we may never know the true identity of the mystery Duloc lady, the interest it's stirred up lately is a testament to the legacy of Shrek, and how the green guy still manages to captivate his audience all these years later. Again, I'm thinking the only way we're going to find the identity of our mystery lady for sure is if the right person from the Shrek team sees either this or Shy Valley's video. So, until then, our best hope is to share these videos around like crazy. Be sure to like and subscribe for more of the most obscure content on the internet. I can't wait for you all to see everything I've got cooking up for the channel, but until then, good night, my friends.